Revered Swamiji, in your talks, you give many examples about the nature of the world in relation to the true self. Prominent among them are 1, a dream, 2, the snake and the rope, and 3, the wave in the ocean. Swamiji, I find that all 3 are different in the sense that a dream is a complete non-reality. A snake superimposed over a rope indicates that there is a reality right there, but in ignorance the mind perceives it as something else. A wave in the ocean is kind of the same truth, appearing differently, but its appearance essentially is not different than what it is. Which analogy would you say is the most accurate representation of the world and our body-mind complex?
All right. Very good question. Advaita Vedanta uses a lot of examples to point out something that cannot actually be directly spoken about. So that's why we use all these examples. And the snake rope, of course, is a classic example of Vedanta. There's this story in the Uttarakhand, in northern India, when this boy ran away from the village to become a monk. And the people in the village, they went in search of him. Somebody went to an ashram and found the boy who had become a monk, a Vedantic monk. And he stayed in the ashram a few days, and then he came back to the village. And the people in the village were interested. How's that lad? How's he doing? What do they do? What do the monks do all day long? And this man reported, well, they have a problem in the ashram, in the monastery. It seems there are a lot of snakes there. Every day in the morning, they talk about a snake which has covered a rope, and they work, and they try to talk about how to drive the snake away, and they come to some kind of conclusion, and the next day in the morning, the snake is back. The snake and the rope appearing as the snake is a classic example which is used. But yes, his point is well taken. The examples are different, and truly so, and on purpose so. There are a number of things I would like to say here. An example is always meant to illustrate one point. Sri Ramakrishna used to say in Bengali, Upama Agdeshi. There is something that the person using the example wants to convey to you. But you must understand what he wants to convey. That's the point of the example, not misunderstand. You'll see how it is applied in these examples. When you talk about an example, you want to talk about something, you are using that example to talk about it. We're talking about Brahman and the world, we are using snake and rope. Right? We are talking about Brahman and the world, we are using snake and rope. Now there is something common which is helping us to talk about it. That common factor must be understood. Everything in the example will not match everything in the exemplified. That's the very nature of an analogy or an example. When you say a man is as brave as a lion, you expect that man to be courageous. But you don't expect that man to be going around on all fours and growling and jumping on random people and eating them up. Because he's like a lion. No. He'll be as brave as a lion, means courageous. That's only in one point. You wanted to express only one point there. Similarly, now, this is a really good question. What is the point being expressed when you say the world is like a snake in a rope? Or it's like a wave in the ocean? Or it's like a dream? What is the similarity? Note something here. I was listening to the language used, that in the case of a dream, Ajay says, there it's not at all real. Whereas in the case of the snake and the rope, there is something real there, by which he means the rope, which appears as a snake. When you are talking about a dream, it's not that there is nothing real there. There is something real there. That's the dreamer. In the dream, the dreamer does not, the person who's sleeping and dreaming, that person does not appears as a role in that dream itself. Has a body in the dream, a dream body and a dream role to play. But in all of the dream, what is the underlying reality? Unseen reality there. It's the mind of the dreamer, isn't it? The whole dream is constituted of the mind of the dreamer. Exactly like that, when you see a rope in front, a snake in front, it's actually a rope. You don't know that it's a rope, but with the false snake which you are seeing, All of it is virtually only the rope and nothing else. The two examples are not as different as you would think they are. There is a reality which is being misunderstood. There is a reality which is appearing as something else. The mind of a person sleeping and dreaming, you've forgotten that you are sleeping in your bed, you're safe and sound, you are having a nightmare and terrible things are happening. All that is generated by your own mind in the dream. It's a virtual reality generated by your mind. There is a reality appearing as something else. In that sense, there is a reality, the rope, appearing as a snake. Okay. In the same way, what is meant is that there is a reality, Brahman, unseen. Just as you do not see that you are in your bed and sleeping in your dream. You see everything else except the dreamer. In the same way, we see everything else here except the reality which is existence, consciousness, bliss. Now, just like the rope which is in front of you, and yet you do not recognize the rope as a rope, you see the rope as a snake. In exactly the same way, Brahman is actually in front of us. Front of us, in one of Mundaka Upanishad, it says, Brahman is in front of you, Brahman is behind you, Brahman is to your sides, Brahman is above you, Brahman is below you, inside and outside, everywhere and always is Brahman alone. And we say nowhere, neither in front, nor back, nor above, nor below, nowhere. Wave and the water example is there. That the reality is that same reality. The wave is nothing but water through and through. But if a little wave asks the guru wave, you say that we are all water. But where is water? Where? Up, down, below. Where is water? I only see a wave. I see myself. I see you. Where is water? He is seeing water. That little wave is seeing water. Seeing means within quotes. It's all water around him. Doesn't recognize it. All the time. Experiencing water. It's like somebody looking at this and saying, yes, I see the lectern. What do you mean wood? Where is the wood? It's a lectern. If I say, no, this is the wood. Swami, you're touching the front of the lectern. But where is the wood? It's all wood. You say, but it's all lectern. Where is the wood in this? If you say like that, you understand what is wood and what is the lectern, so you understand the meaning of this example. But when the enlightened person says it is all God, we are in the same situation. What do you mean it's all God? It's a man, it's a woman, it's a friend, it's an enemy, it's a building, it's a sky, it's a flower. Where is God in all of this? We are having exactly the same problem. So all of these examples apply. The wave and water example is one. In the Upanishads you will find continuously, not the snake and the rope example, you will find pot and clay. There are lots of pots then, I think. Whenever you go and dig up an ancient civilization, what's the first thing you find? Pottery, yes. So pot and clay and golden ornaments and even a nail cutter and iron. That example is there in the Chandogya Upanishad. Iron and implements made of iron. What they're trying to point out there is a reality out of which it is constituted. Now don't misunderstand. I, for a long time, preferred the snake rope example, and I was a little uneasy about the clay and pot example. You know why I was uneasy? Maybe many of you have that uneasiness. Because we have the feeling that the clay is shaped into a pot. So is there something called Brahman which is shaped into the world? We have the feeling that the clay is somehow transformed in some way at least. Though it is clay, but it's somehow transformed. Something is done to it. And really, in some sense, a pot is created, which is true. So is it like that with Brahman and the world? Was there existence, consciousness, bliss before creation? And then something was done to it, and now it's a world and people and life and stars and planets. Is that what has happened? That's not the meaning. We are missing the point. You know what's the point of that example? The point of the example is simple and profound. Clay and pot example. Water and wave example. The point is simple and profound. The point is this. In the pot, there is nothing but clay. The only reality is clay. In the pot, there is no second thing apart from clay. If you take a pot, first of all, it's a pot. Stage one. Look deeply, somebody tells you the pot is an effect, the clay is the material cause, material out of which this effect called pot has been made. You say, okay, I get it. There is something called clay which has been made into a pot, but it's still a pot. Stage 3. Look closely now. The cause of the material cause of the pot, clay. The top of the pot is clay, the bottom of the pot is clay, the sides are clay, the inside is clay. It is true and true clay only. Recognize it. Yes. And the fourth stage, show me a pot apart from that clay. There is no pot. It's a name and a form and a function. It's a form. And there's a name, pot, and a function. You can put water in it or whatever. But this material, the thing, the reality, the substance, the mass, the weight is the clay, the constituting clay, water, whatever it is, which has made the pot. There is no second real thing. I'm using words very carefully. No second real thing apart from the clay there. If it was there, show it to me separately. Clay here and pot here. No. I'll sell you the pot. I'll keep the clay. No. No, you cannot. In the same way, what is meant, and the same thing applies to water and wave. So what is meant by that example is, for the enlightened person, everything here, really, precise use of the word again, really is Brahman. Name and form, man, woman, function, chair, table, buildings, earth and sky, merits and demerits, good and bad, all of that. They are the names, forms and functions superimposed on Brahman, one existence, consciousness, bliss. And Vedanta is procedures for showing you this, not just as a claim. Just as you can easily recognize the wood in this lectern, the clay in the pot, and the water in the wave, exactly in the same way, you will be able to recognize existence, consciousness, bliss in everything in life, inside and outside. That's the meaning of the example. That's the real meaning of the example of water and wave, clay and pot. So all of these examples are correct, but they all have slightly different uses to teach different things about Vedanta. And not all of them are correct in every respect. No example is perfect in every respect. That's the whole nature of an example. Drishtanta in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, two words are there, Drishtanta and Dashtantika. Drishtanta, example. Dashtantika, what you want to explain with that example. So the example and what you want to explain will be similar in some respects and dissimilar in other respects. That you have to understand. Otherwise, if you say clay is the reality and pot is an appearance, in the same way Brahman is the reality, the world is an appearance. So you think that, so the world is supposed to be round and hollow, and Brahman is brown and it's some kind of crumbly material which you can make. No, those characteristics are incidental. They're not what is meant. What is meant is the reality of the pot is clay. The reality of this world is Brahman. As Vivekananda said in that poem, the world is not, God alone is. Brahman alone is. Reality alone is. The world is not means names and forms have no reality apart from Brahman. Yeah. But good question. One must learn how to use these examples and understand the examples in their right context.